The clip lasted barely 12 seconds, but that was all it took for people in Spain to start asking a question the palace clearly did not want trending this week. Because during that university event in Madrid, when someone casually asked about Princess Leonor's next academic step, King Felipe gave an answer so short, so strangely careful, that even royal reporters looked confused for a second. Not because of what he said, but because of what he didn't say. And once that moment hit social media, the entire conversation around Leonor's future changed almost overnight. People thought her path was already decided. Elite university, international diplomacy, a polished royal image, the classic future queen blueprint. That's what everybody expected. That's what the media had been selling for months. Then suddenly, everything shifted. And honestly, I think this is one of the smartest, and riskiest, decisions the Spanish monarchy has made in years. Because what King Felipe appears to be doing with Leonor now is not traditional royal planning anymore. It feels more like a complete rebranding operation. And the scary part, it might actually work. Now compare that to what's happening in Britain right now. While Prince William and Kate Middleton continue presenting that calm, classic monarchy image, garden parties, public appearances, controlled elegance, Spain seems to be experimenting with something completely different. More movement, more unpredictability, more action over image. And weirdly, it reminds me of how modern creators build internet loyalty now. Not polished perfection, but narrative, conflict, transformation. Even someone like Mr. Beast understands this better than most institutions do. Audiences don't attach themselves to perfection anymore. They attach themselves to progression. Watching somebody evolve in real time. That's exactly why Leonor's military training exploded online in the first place. People felt like they were watching a future queen being forged live in front of them. And now, King Felipe may be taking that strategy even further. If you're new to Leonor's story, subscribe, I post every day. Because here's the thing most headlines are missing. This isn't just about academics. This is about survival, not Leonor's survival personally, the monarchy's survival emotionally, and there's a massive difference between those two things. See, old royal systems depended on distance, mystery, silence, ceremony, but 2026 audiences don't trust distance anymore. If anything, people are suspicious of it. They want authenticity, struggle, visible pressure. That's why every tiny detail involving Leonor suddenly trends. A facial expression, a pause before answering, the way she stands during military drills. People are studying her like viewers study a Netflix character. And I know some royal traditionalists hate hearing that comparison. But it's true, modern royalty is competing with entertainment now. That's the game, and I think King Felipe understands that better than people realize. Because changing Leonor's academic direction, or at least reshaping it publicly, creates something the palace desperately needs. Uncertainty, conversation, curiosity. You know what kills public interest faster than scandal sometimes? Predictability. If Leonor followed the exact expected royal script, public attention would slowly fade into routine. Another royal doing another royal thing. But this creates tension. People start asking, why the sudden change? Who influenced the decision? Was Leonor fully on board? Did the palace panic after recent criticism? Is Spain preparing her for leadership differently than expected? And once people start asking questions, they keep watching. That's the uncomfortable truth modern monarchies have learned from social media culture. Now obviously, the palace would never publicly frame it that way. Officially, everything is always about preparation, responsibility, service to Spain, all the polished language we've heard 1,000 times. But behind the scenes, I think something much more strategic is happening. Because let's be honest for a second. Leonor's image changed dramatically after military training began. Before that, a lot of younger audiences viewed her respectfully, but passively. Now, she feels active, disciplined, tested. There's a narrative arc now. And I honestly think King Felipe saw the numbers, saw the engagement, saw the international headlines, and realized the old academic path might not create the emotional connection the monarchy needs for the next 20 years. That's the hidden cost nobody talks about. Traditional elite education creates competence. But struggle creates loyalty. Huge difference. And this is where I think the Spanish monarchy is quietly diverging from other European royal houses. Because while some monarchies protect heirs from pressure, Spain appears to be placing Leonor directly inside it. On purpose. That's risky. Very risky. Because if audiences sense even a little manipulation, the whole strategy could backfire instantly. People today are incredibly sensitive to manufactured authenticity. The second viewers feel like a royal moment was engineered purely for PR, they turn against it fast. Which is why this academic shift matters more than it sounds on paper. It changes the entire perception of Leonor's future. Suddenly she's not just future queen studying politics. Now she becomes something else entirely. A transitional figure, part royal heir, part national symbol, part modern celebrity, part military figure. And honestly, I don't think Europe has fully seen this kind of royal hybrid before. Not at this scale. Even comparisons with Princess Catherine don't fully work because Kate entered the monarchy from the outside. Leonor is being shaped from birth under entirely different pressures. That changes everything psychologically. Imagine growing up knowing every educational decision becomes national debate material. That's intense. And sometimes I wonder if people online fully understand what that pressure does to somebody at her age. Because here's another hot take that probably won't make headlines. I don't think this decision is only about preparing Leonor to rule. I think it's also about protecting her from becoming emotionally disconnected from ordinary Spaniards. That sounds dramatic, but think about it carefully. One of the biggest criticisms modern monarchies face is that royal heirs often appear overly polished, overly protected, overly rehearsed. King Felipe probably knows that danger very well, especially after watching how public perception destroyed trust in multiple royal institutions across Europe over the past decade. So what do? You create visible effort, visible discipline, visible sacrifice. That's why military imagery works politically. Not because people suddenly become obsessed with uniforms, but because struggle feels believable. And believable leaders survive longer. That's the deeper game here. Now whether Leonor personally wanted this full shift, that's the question nobody can answer honestly right now. And pay attention to how carefully royal insiders avoid speaking too confidently about her personal feelings. That silence alone tells me there are probably intense conversations happening privately behind palace walls. Because changing an academic path at this stage is not small. It affects friendships, identity, freedom, future networks, even personal happiness. And sometimes I think royal coverage forgets that Leonor is still a young woman, trying to figure herself out while carrying an institution on her shoulders. That's a brutal combination, especially in the social media era where every expression becomes a headline. One awkward moment gets replayed for weeks. One tired face becomes royal crisis. One private rumor becomes international content. Honestly, I don't envy her at all. But from a strategic standpoint, King Felipe may believe discomfort now prevents disaster later. And history kind of supports that logic. The strongest monarchies usually adapt before they're forced to, not after. That's why I think this story matters way beyond academics. It's actually about whether royal institutions can reinvent themselves fast enough for a generation that grew up with TikTok, live streams, YouTube documentaries, and constant access to public figures. Because younger audiences don't automatically respect titles anymore. You have to earn emotional relevance now. Daily. And Leonor, intentionally or not, is becoming Spain's test case for that entire experiment. That's why every move around her suddenly feels bigger than it used to. Every appearance now carries narrative weight. Even silence carries meaning. And if I'm being completely real with you, I think the palace understands something most commentators still miss. People are no longer watching Leonor because she's a princess. They're watching because they want to see whether she can survive becoming queen in a completely different world than the one her father inherited. That's the real story here. Not school schedules, not palace press releases, not official statements. It's the transformation itself. And whether King Felipe's shocking academic pivot becomes remembered as visionary, or the moment the pressure on Leonor quietly became too much.